viewers in YouTube land. I'm doing a basic pneumatic setup. I want to explain to everybody how I set up some of my basic pneumatics props. First off, you have a male quick connect. This is how I do it. And then I put a push fitting inside the quick connect. And then I run tubing, 1/4 inch tubing. This would be your regulator. And on your regulator, there's an arrow. You can see that arrow? That's gonna be your airflow. So you got your supply side. This is gonna go to your air hose going to your compressor. And your supply side goes to your regulator and then goes to your solenoid. Some people like to put backflow valves in their lines. I don't, just because I drain everything when I'm done anyways, but some people do. This is your solenoid. This is a 5-port solenoid. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are your 2 exhaust ports. And on your exhaust ports on this one, I've got mufflers on there with flow controls. So control the air. Quick connect goes in there on your supply. Then these go to your cylinder. So this is a double acting cylinder, and I've got flow controls on here as well. So what the flow control does, it controls the speed of how fast you want this rod to come out, or how slow you want it to go back in, or slow you want it to come out. So depending on your what you're doing with it, that's what you use these for and these for. Power supplies to the solenoid. I know I jumped around a little bit. I use 12 volts. Some solenoids are 120, some solenoids are 24 volts. I try to do everything in my props, in my haunted house. I try to do everything 12 volts. DC, I just feel it's safer. In case you touch bare wires for fire, all that. It's just what I like to use. Some people will use 120 volt power, but not me. I like to use 12 volts as much as possible. Here's a couple fittings here. These are your push connectors. If I just wanted this to go open fast and slow, I wouldn't even bother with these flow controls. I would just use these push connectors. This one here is a 1/4 inch thread. This one here is an 1/8 inch thread. The reason why some of those are different sizes is because on these ports here, some of the cylinders can have a bigger thread size. If it's a bigger cylinder, it's going to have probably a 1/4 inch thread size. And same thing with the solenoids. That's a 1/4 inch. Your exhaust ports are an 1/8 inch. But sometimes on these solenoids, all the ports are 1/8 inch. So it's just a matter of what you get, what size you're going to use for your fittings, your connect fittings. But that's it on my basic setup. I'm going to explain some controllers that I use too. Here is a 60-62 timer. That's good for our 1 trigger, 1 pop. So if you just wanted this to go up psh, psh, once, I recommend doing these. They're about $20 to $25 on Amazon. This is the motion sensor for it. It's a 12 volt motion sensor. I get these from Amazon as well. The power supplies that I use for these are 12 volt, 5 amp power supplies. That way, I can power this. I can power, and I can power this. You can also use 120 volts on here. And I think you can use, I'm not sure, but I think you can use a 220 or 240 volts on there as well, but I don't know what you would use that for a haunted house. But your 110, 120, you can definitely use it on that relay there, or your 12 volts. It doesn't matter the voltage, just don't go over the limit of volts on that. My next controller that I use, this is a Peekaboo. I get these from Fright Props. I've tried using this motion sensor with this controller. I couldn't get to work. So I ended up buying, I was trying to save some money like we all do. So I buy Fry Props motion sensor now, and I use it with these, and it works like a champ, works like a charm every time. So that's how I can control, depending on what I'm doing. These I would use for like an air cannon or an ankle tickler or something like that. And here's an air cannon here. That's an air cannon. Well, that's actually going to be an ankle tickler going to a prop. But all my props, I put regulators on. This is a 2-port solenoid. I will explain that. I've got one over here. I'll explain. Quick connect. Boom, right there. I just hook up my air hose to it. Good to go. So here's some solenoids. I've already told you about this 5-port here. This is actually a manifold with 3 5-ports on there. So if I've got a prop that I needed to do 3 different things, I'm going to use something like this. And I would use a controller, probably a 4-channel controller for this. I've used I think the biggest one I've used was a 4 solenoid manifold before, and I hooked it up to a 4-channel controller, and it works awesome. So these are great if you got multiple things that you need to trigger off. Now here is a 2-port solenoid, the same thing I had on the air cannon, and that's what I use these for. I use these for air cannons, and I use these for ankle ticklers. I will go with a 1/2 inch on those, and they seem to have plenty of air. I've tried using like a 3/8 or something like that, and it just doesn't have the power for the air cannons or the ankle ticklers. So a 1/2 inch is plenty, and they work really well. That's pretty much it, but that's how I set up everything. This is just a basic how-to on your pneumatics, what to get for a prop that you want to use. You know, these are good for like torso risers or jumpers or whatever. You can even use these in like if you have something that's going to bend like that, like an arm or something, but you'd probably use a smaller cylinder for that. But anyways, that's pretty much it for everything. And happy haunting, and hopefully we'll see some of your projects on Facebook and YouTube. Hope this helped. Thank you.